Hi, I'm Danielle Vassell and welcome back to another episode of Tiny Tots Defying the Odds. Each episode touches upon the miraculous journeys of each guest, from medical emergencies and personal crises to parenthood and entrepreneurship. These are the stories and testimonies of great might and mettle, and I can't wait to share them with you. Today, my next guest is one of the strongest women I've met, Ashley O'Neill. Ashley's son Kolin was born 4 months premature and spent 6 months in the NICU. On top of that, she had a personal family bereavement during Kolin's NICU journey, but she persevered through it all, and she has since launched It's the NICU World. It means to empower NICU families by providing hope, encouragement and resources. In addition, Ashley is due to launch her first book, It's the NICU World preemie edition. I talked to Ashley about dealing with bereavement, coping being a single medical mom, and how she is making an impact in the NICU community. To all the single moms, if you find yourself in need of encouragement, this one is for you. Here's Ashley on the Tiny Tots Defying the Odds podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me. Thank you.
How are you?
I am well. Yourself?
I'm good, thank you. Good to hear that you're well. I'm so happy to have you on here today. You are someone that is defying the odds in many ways. And of course, your beautiful boy, Kolin. And you are showing how being a single mom and being a founder of an amazing venture impacting the NICU community. You're showing us how it's done, really. And I'm sure our audience will definitely be happy to hear your journey and be encouraged by what you have to share. So without any further ado, I want to let you introduce yourself to our guests and just tell us where you're from and what you're doing at the moment.
Hi, everyone. I am Ashley O'Neill. I am originally from Michigan, but I currently live in Southern Maryland. I am the mother to a beautiful boy named Kolin. He is a former 25-weeker, had a 183-day stay in the NICU. I am also a widow. My husband passed away a little over 2 years ago. I am a family nurse practitioner by trade. I am a soon-to-be author. I have my book coming out shortly. We're just still working on the final details, so I'm excited about that. And I am very excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Amazing. It's honestly my pleasure to have you on here. So you heard that, guys. She wears many hats. Tell us about the journey of Kolin's being in the NICU ward and what was that like for you? Tell us about that. And I understand he was born weighing 1.5 ounces, which is, wow, just really tiny. Yeah. Wow. That must have been scary for you, right? How did you navigate through that journey and what was going through your mind at that moment?
So it's really scary because my first son was born at 25 weeks gestation and he passed away shortly after. And so I thought that, once we made it past a certain gestation, we're fine. And then all of a sudden, here comes Kolin at 25 weeks. He was born at a small community hospital. So shortly after he was born, he actually had to be flown up to George Washington Hospital, which is in D.C. It's about 2 hours away from where I live. I didn't think that he was going to survive the night. He was so tiny and frail, and I was just like, oh my goodness, here we go again. I was transferred up to Georgetown the following day, and then that just set off a long journey, right? So the first couple of days, it was, he's okay, he's hanging in there, and then all of a sudden, the doctors are calling you. Okay, so he has brain bleeds, and then the next day, the brain bleeds are worse. And then he has hydrocephalus, so a buildup of cerebrospinal fluid on the brain. And then he's going to need a shunt. And it's just like, bam, 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 bam. Like for the first 2 weeks, my husband and I, we stayed, the bedside for like hours on hours. And then when we finally took the drive home, like we didn't even pull in the driveway before the doctors were calling. It's like, oh, it's worse. We're just like, oh. We just came home for, change of clothes. But yeah, Kolin, the 183 days, he just amazed me. Whenever, things got rough, doctors sitting us down, he's going to be severely handicapped, he's going to not be able to, walk, talk, eat, see, so then we're thinking like, okay, how do we manage? But he is a miracle, he still has his struggles. And we work hard every day to try to overcome some of those struggles he had. But, he's just my blessing.
And just hearing that just really touches my heart. Me and Kolin were so similar in our birth weight. I was 1.4 ounces and he was 1.5. And, just my mom and dad constantly hearing negative reports about me as well and having to get called back into the hospital and doctors saying there's no chance for your daughter, and same with Kolin. And it's just frustrating in that moment. You just want your child to be well, in spite of what doctors are telling you. And it's really walking by faith and not by sight, right?
Right.
Yeah. And how did you get through those tough moments when you wanted to give up and when doctors were saying there's no hope for Kolin and he's not going to make it? What really kept you in those darkest moments?
I would probably say it probably has to do a lot with my first son, Vincent. His name is Vincent Carter. I feel like he kind of prepared me for that moment. Because like once you go through like your kid dying, it's like you can probably do anything, right? You don't expect to bury your own kid. So then when Kolin came, it's like he's alive. You got to keep going. He's here. When I'm going to the NICU, he's looking at me. He's smiling. Well, he started smiling towards the end, I should say. I don't know. He told me he wasn't. What I told him was that I would keep fighting as long as he kept fighting. And 3.5 years later, he's still fighting. So,
and look, he's here, and this is evidence that, when the doctors say no, God always says yes. They don't always have the final say. Sometimes it may look that way because they're experts in the particular field, but when they're saying otherwise, you've got to really just be strong and stand your ground and just say no, like my child will live. And look, Kolin's here today and he's doing well in spite of the odds against him. And I want you to talk about what was it like? It's hard enough losing a child. That's difficult because you helped bring him into the world and everything else. But how is it like having to look after Kolin whilst dealing with the bereavement of your loved one, which was your husband?
So all of this, just to back it up a little bit, all of this happened in a 4-year span, right? So my son, Vincent, was born and died on like May 2nd, 2016. Kolin came April 3rd, 2019. Then my husband died May 29th, 2019. So it's just like almost exactly 4 years apart. And it kind of got to the point where, because he passed away in our home and I found him when I came home from work. It's kind of like when I opened the door and I saw him, I instantly knew that he was deceased. And my first instant was, of course, what else could go wrong, right? Because I had had trauma after trauma after trauma. And then afterwards, after that thought passed, then it actually just like hit me. I was like, okay. The first few months, especially because it was during COVID, was, I'm sorry, my husband died May 29th, 2020. I think I said 2019, it was 2020. So it was right after COVID started. And I took like a 3 months off. And it's one thing for your husband to die. It's another thing to go through a world pandemic, but it to coincide at the same time. It's like I'm sitting here looking at walls for 3 months, can't breathe, can't move, trying not to let my toddler show my emotions. Because my husband died when Kolin was a little over a year of age. So you're just sitting there just like trying to put on a brave face for Kolin. And then, once he goes to bed, you go in your room. And I started writing more during that time just to kind of express my feelings. Because none of my friends have gone through half of what I've gone through. So they're a good support system, but they don't understand everything. So it's kind of just like one moment at a time, one breath at a time.
I can't imagine the trauma that must have been for you. You're going through one trauma to the next and you're thinking, what else is next? I can't take it, really? Why now? If that makes sense. What helped you in those moments of trauma, getting through bereavement? Because I know every stage of bereavement is different. Losing a loved one isn't easy. But what would you say helps you get through that difficult moment?
My faith in God. It's a lot. And then Kolin, because if it wasn't for Kolin, I would probably be on an island somewhere, like open up a little bar. But he keeps me going. His just smile kind of lights up my heart. And so everyone says like, oh, you're such a good mom, but Kolin saved me, if that makes sense. He's the one that keeps me going. Like, okay, we got to get up, we got a purpose. We take care of each other.
and two is better than one, they say, right? And he's beautiful. And how is it like being a single mom, raising a beautiful boy whilst, taking care of your own self? How do you do it? Because many other single moms right now who may think, oh my gosh, like, how do I do it? How would you describe balancing it all for you as a single mom?
Very, very hard. It's only been recently where I've actually tried to carve out a little bit of time for myself. Like the first few years, I only had enough energy for Kolin, and then I'm a family nurse practitioner. So I'm seeing, 16, 17 patients a day. After, like, between those two, like, I'm done. Like, I'm tired. And then Kolin has so many appointments. So it's just it took a lot of like energy just to kind of coordinate everything and make sure that he has what he needs. And then I kind of got the leftovers. So now I'm trying to get to the point where it's a little bit more balanced. I've scaled back work a little bit. And then I've recently asked to come down like to true part-time at the beginning of the next year, just because I just need more balance. And there's a lot of more creative things I want to do that I don't necessarily have the time for now. Kolin, when I come home from work, I do a lot of, charting on the weekend just to get caught up. So it's a hard balance. I say that.
But yet you get it done though. At the end of the day, this is what being a strong single mama is. Even though you've gone through a lot, you're still being strong for not only yourself, but for Kolin, right? You want him to grow up to be a strong man that will make impact and be an inspiration to many, isn't it? He's doing so well. Talk to us about some of the achievements and milestones that Kolin's had so far after his NICU journey, and what was it like seeing him get to certain stages, growing in age and everything?
So when he first came home, because he has extensive brain damage, when he first came home, he could barely move like his left arm, and had decreased movement of the left leg. And I remember like my husband he was an aerospace engineer by trade. He found something off Amazon, like this glove to put on Kolin's hand. And he would sit there and make Kolin like practice opening and closing his hand, putting his own pacifier in. And then slowly, he started gaining different skills. I remember when we were first trying to get him to sit up on his own or eat by mouth or things like this. And then over the years have gone, like recently, he knows how to spell like cat and hat. Cat, hi, me, and he knows how to spell his name. We're to the point where he is able to go a short distance by himself using his walker. He loves an iPad or a tablet. He can navigate my phone better than I can. He recently started pre-K, so that's been exciting watching him, get on the bus and come home. He's such a big boy. So it's been a magical journey of like where we started, and then because you kind of have this idea of kind of like what you want your kids to be when you grow up, right? So my husband had a very hard childhood growing up, and so. And we both had masters. We both have master's degree. Like, he has to at least be like a doctor or have a PhD or something, right? And so then you have this kid come out with all these disabilities, and you're saying like, how does this align with the vision that we thought we had for our kid? So it's kind of like you have to retrain your thinking and say like, hey, Kolin's going to show us all he's capable of as long as we give him like the necessary tools. And you kind of have to live in the present moment and not worry about the future too much and just get him what he needs now, right? So we do a lot of therapy, physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech. We got him a communication device. I built a whole home gym in the basement. If there's anything that we go to a physical therapist's office, they have that it looks like it helps, we have it in our basement. Amazon comes every day. So it's just like, I don't know. It's just been magical seeing his journey from when he first came home until now. And he looks just like my husband. He has the demeanor of my husband. He likes to play tricks on people already. So he's a miracle.
I can tell you, as I've seen for myself on your page, how he's growing and thriving, and he is just a proper little man. Isn't already? He's surrounded. Like just seeing how he's defying the odds, even though he may have some health challenges as we speak, right? That is an example of how he's thriving against the odds. And, I know he's going to make his dad proud because he's got a strong mom that will help guide him to be a strong man to come. You know, I love that you have set up a wonderful venture, and it's called a NICU World. And the purpose is to empower NICU families by providing hope and resources. And you're doing just that. I've seen from myself. And it's such a lovely way to give back to the NICU community. Can you tell us about that and what inspired you to launch that venture?
So when Kolin first came home, I had an idea of a book to write. And so I sketched it out on a piece of paper, like real old school, folded it up, kind of drew illustrations of what I thought each page looked like. And then life was really hard at that moment. So I was like, oh, well, I'll tuck this away and I'll bring it back later. I'll bring it out later. And then my husband passed away. And then, so I would say probably last year, I was like, okay, Ashley, something was like pulling on me. Okay, let's just do it. We need to get it done. And so I was like, well, I need to find a way to like advertise it. And so it originally started off as a way for me to kind of promote the book. And then as I started realizing the impact that I could have with it, I started saying, okay, let's show people, because it's easier to tell people like how, you know, it's easy to tell people like this is what you should do when you have a kid that kind of like Kolin comes home. It's another thing to show them and to kind of give them hope. You know, all our babies are different. All our babies have different stories, different health challenges. But if you can see someone kind of making it, even though everything isn't perfect, it kind of gives you a little bit more like hope and encouragement, like, hey, you can do this too. So that's my whole goal, is just to encourage other families that they can make it too. And now, you know, your future looks different, but it's kind of like what you make it, and to enjoy where you are like at this moment and worry about tomorrow when tomorrow comes.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you 100% on that. And how has It's a NICU World impacted the NICU community already? And also, what are some of your future goals for what It's a NICU World to achieve? What would you like to see happen and flourish within the NICU World?
The impact I would say that we've had so far, everyday families reaching out to say, hey, you know, whether they've seen something that I've done with Kolin that they want to try, or that it's helped them, or just building like a support system, sending encouragement, being there to answer questions when they have it. I feel like that's just like the day-to-day, like networking and communicating with other families is like the most important, I would say. In future, I have a book. It's currently been illustrated. It's the NICU World. And it kind of just goes over Kolin's NICU journey from when he's born until when he comes home. And then eventually I would like to have like 4 or 5 books in the series, along with just finding other ways to kind of like share our story in hopes of just encouraging other families, whether that be, I don't know, maybe speaking engagements, or I feel like that part's just kind of, I'm still like in the process of kind of figuring out kind of what's next past the books. Like, what's next? How do I use my voice and Kolin's story to like impact the world?
Yeah. And that will come, honestly. I can see it. It will come. It will grow. More doors will open onto you. But for now, you're putting in the work to get there. And already the fact that families are reaching out to you within this venture is a great sign that there are better things to come, you know? How important is it that you support the NICU community in terms of getting parents to share their journeys as well, to encourage others going through a tough NICU process at the moment? How important is it bringing people, like you said, families together, part of this venture you're doing, just to come and shed a light on the miracle Tots journeys?
I think it's very important, because unless you've had a child who's been in the NICU or have medical issues, you have no idea how hard it is. You know, because I have people in my life where I share my story, you think they understand, but then they'll say something, you're like, you don't get it. You don't have a clue. And so it kind of makes you feel like you are not alone, right? That's the biggest part. That's the biggest piece, is letting you know that you are not alone. and just being able to share like tips and resources. There's so many things I did not know about Colin's and NICU. I work in healthcare. Like I didn't know about different programs that we qualified for until I talked to other families who have kids with special needs. And so it's all about sharing your wealth, which is in this area is your resources. Like, how do you find this? What programs you're in? For instance, Kolin recently got a go-kart through the Go Baby Go company. So I'm like, hey, if anybody wants one of these, let me know. I can show you. If you live in the DMV, I can show you how to get this. And it's totally free. And they do it just out of the kindness of their heart. They get grants. And the director was like, hey, let me know if you know anybody who needs it. So it's just sharing what you know that can help, I don't know, brighten up somebody else's day or kind of make their load a little bit easier.
I think we all need to be a helping hand to somebody, right? And the fact that you want to help implement change within the NICU community through this NICU World speaks volumes. What are some of the challenges that you have seen within the healthcare or the NICU ward per se that may affect miracle tots or parents? What are some of the implications, I should say, that may be affecting the NICU community right now that needs to be solved?
How hard it is to, it's like, for example, Kolin recently received a wheelchair. So I go to a company that measures him. But it's like a third-party company that actually like orders all the parts. So they called me and said, hey, Ashley, it's ready. You called the first place to schedule the appointment for pickup. So I called the first place and they're like, well, your referral expired 2 days ago, right? So essentially like the doctor's order expired 2 days ago. I'm like, okay, so what do I need to do? Okay, so we're going to resubmit it. I said, so when should I expect a call back by, or when should I follow up? 14 days. So I called back in 14 days. I was like, hey, what's going on? I need my kid's wheelchair before school starts. And so they said, okay, I'm looking. I don't see something. I'll give you a call back. So this was a Thursday. I was like, okay, I'm calling back on a Tuesday. The original person never put the order in, never resubmitted the order. So then I call again, and the second person never resubmitted it. So then it's a third call. So that's like the biggest issue, is trying to get your kid what they need. It's kind of like you're advocating for your kid. You have to keep calling. You have to be beyond like organized. Like I write myself little notes. Okay, Ashley, you talk to this person on this day. You need to follow up by this time if you don't hear back from them. And they probably get annoyed, but I don't care because my kid needs what he needs. So that's like the biggest problem in healthcare is too many. And I know from the being a healthcare provider, I understand that people are short-staffed. I understand that, faxes don't go through. Like I understand all of that coming from a healthcare provider's view. But as a mama, I don't care. I want my kid to have his stuff. So that's like the biggest challenge is, like, I don't understand how people who don't have as many resources that I have or, the health knowledge, like how do they navigate this American healthcare system, getting everything that you need? There's some families who can't get medications covered or insurance will only cover, one piece of equipment versus another. I feel like that's like the biggest challenge is making sure your kid has everything that they need to give them the best possible life. Because sometimes you don't know what your kid is capable of if you don't have the tools to give them, right? You don't understand how, kind of what they're thinking if they're nonverbal and they don't have a communication device. Like, how can they tell you? So I feel like that's the biggest challenge for people here.
And I guess I can say that's why you're placed within the healthcare for such a time as this, because you can eventually be a problem solver. And you can use your venture as the NICU World to provide the resources that are lacking within the healthcare right now, especially for the NICU community. You can spot problems and you can be a problem solver to them through this venture. And of course, I saw the clip of you sharing Kolin's reunion, and you did such an amazing job. And it was such a heartfelt speech. How important is it for you, being a single mom, and being strong on behalf of Kolin? How is it important, and why is it important for you to share his story within the reunion, within the NICU community, and to other parents that may be going through a tough NICU experience? How important is it for you to share Kolin's story?
I think it's very important because when we were there was this section, I call it the 25-weeker row. So when we first got there was nothing but 25 weekers there. And we stayed in that same spot for a month. And all the other babies were rotating around and leaving. And then there were a new set of babies. And we were still there. And one day I was like, you better move me from this spot. I don't want to be here anymore. Move me. I don't care where we go. And then I thought they were going to move me to the window, but they moved me to another place. So I was still mad. But anyway, I say all of that to say there weren't any examples of families like mine. Like we were the hard case, you know. I was sitting in the lobby and people were watching me cry and like all of this stuff. And I could tell like their heart went out to me, but they didn't understand. So I kind of wanted to share our story so that the hard cases, you know, we get hope too, you know. It was more than just, and I'm not minimizing anybody else's NICU stay. I understand that nobody wants their kid to be there. And I understand that it's hard on everyone. So I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that sometimes, you know, the harder cases, so like the micro preemies, which are below kids who are born between 25 and 28 weeks gestation, or 23 and 22 now in some cases. Those are kind of like the journeys that are more rough, and those are the parents who, for the most part, need a little bit more hope and encouragement. So that's why I share our story. I just want families who have the long, hard road to know that they're not alone and there's resources out there. And that if we can make it, you can too.
Definitely. Kolin is living proof that, you know, no matter what was said against him or no matter what health challenges rose above him, he's here today and he is defying the odds. He is a little miracle star and he'll see that. So being a single mom and a mompreneur of It's a NICU World and working within the healthcare, how do you find time just to balance it all as a single mom and fulfill your purpose at the same time?
It is very, very challenging because Kolin comes first. So, you know, his schedule goes in first. And I get the leftovers, and I'm okay with that now. So now it's trying to figure out, because there's some more creative things that I would like to do. And I don't have the time to actually sit down and like think about like how I would bring those things to fruition, because by the time I get home, I take care of Kolin. A lot of times I'm exhausted. So now I'm just trying to figure out how much work can I do that's reasonable, because I love my job. Like I love my patients. But I'm trying to figure out what's a good balance of how much of myself to give to them versus how much to give to Kolin versus how much to the straps leave to me. So it's hard. That's a work in progress for me, if I'm honest.
But you're doing a great job.
But I'm tired.
Oh, gosh. Well, keep going. You're doing amazing. And finally, I wanted to ask you, what would your message be to other single moms that feel like they're exhausted, they can't do it, and you know they're going back and forth to the hospital to see their little fighter fight for their life and there's no hope? Then a mom who may be single right now, who's looking after their child and at the same time they're trying to fulfill their purpose, but they feel like they can't have the strength to do it because of so many obstacles in the way on a daily basis. But you're someone who is proof that it can be done. And no matter what the odds are against you on a daily basis, you're still getting up, you're still calling bursts, you're still making an impact through It's a NICU World. What would you say to the single moms right now that feel like they can't do it?
First, I would say it's okay to cry. I'll start with there. It's okay to kind of create like this little space for you where you can kind of let your guard down, let your emotions go. Because when you're out and about, you're working, you're with your kids, you have this guard up because as a single mom, you know, you have all the weight on your shoulders. You know, you're responsible for making all decisions for your household, you know, for your kid, like all these things. So it's okay to kind of create like a little spot in your house that's just kind of for you when the kids go to sleep, where you can sit there and kind of like dream again, get your tears out. for me, I like to journal or write. That's how, share my story. It's kind of like very therapeutic for me. So you need to find out some kind of outlet for you, some kind of release. And then when things are good, kind of savor those moments and be present in those moments, because those are the moments that will sustain you when the time gets hard, right? You can say you're in the hospital, your kid's there. You can remember like, hey, there is a day that we won't be here anymore, that we can go home. And we can get back to that place again. And then you kind of have to figure out a way to let go of all of your, I don't want to say expectations, but kind of like this idea of how you thought life was going to go. Because obviously it changes, because nobody would have picked this for ourselves, right? So you have to figure out a way to change your outlook and just kind of appreciate where you are now. Your kid's alive. You're being, and I know sometimes you don't feel like you are, but you're being the best mom that you possibly can for this child. And whether your child is verbal and nonverbal, they know that you're there. They know that you're mama. They know that you will provide for them like nobody else can. So you kind of have to figure out, sometimes you got to pat your own self in the back. Like, you did this, girl, right? I don't know. And I know it gets hard. And I know it's easy to get up here and say, right, you do this. I totally get that. But you kind of got to figure out, like, what are you fighting for, right? You're fighting for your child. You're fighting for yourself. You're fighting for a better future. And no, you didn't want this for your life, but you're here now. So what are you going to do with it? So it's kind of like you got to put your big girl underwear on and let's go.
Honestly, you are such an inspiration. You know, you're an example, like I said, of a single mom that can get it done. Thank you for all you do for you and Kolin. It was a pleasure to have you on here. Please share your socials so our audience knows where to find you and to keep up to date with updates with us in NICU World and more of Kolin's journey.
So on Facebook, it's the NICU World. On Instagram, it's _a_NICU_world. But if you just type in it's a NICU World, it'll come up.
Awesome. Make sure you stay up to date and stay in tune with Kolin's journey and Ashley's journey as well. She's an amazing mom. And make sure you follow them on all their socials.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
They are amazing. And I hope you're inspired by today's podcast. Stay tuned for next week's episode. And it was a pleasure to have you listening in and tuning in. So I appreciate it and love you guys.